Committee will come to order this morning. I want to welcome everybody to our Work and Welfare Subcommittee hearing this morning. The title of our subcommittee today is Leaving the Sticky Notes Behind, Harnessing Innovation and New Technology to Help America's Foster Youth Succeed. I want to welcome all of our witnesses here today, which I'll introduce after my opening statements, and want to welcome the members here to this very important hearing today. A special thank you and welcome to our witnesses for traveling here today. I'm Congressman Darren LaHood, the chairman of the subcommittee, and I represent Illinois' 16th district, which covers much of central and northwestern parts of Illinois. This will be our second hearing as part of the committee's bipartisan work to modernize and reform the Chafee foster care program. During our hearing in June, we examined challenges youth face when aging out of foster care. Witnesses highlighted that many of our foster youth are not aware of resources offered through the Chafee program and raised concerns about states not drawing down all of their available federal funds. Our hearing today will focus on how technology and innovation can help caseworkers better support transition-age foster youth. Last week, I had the honor to join President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump for the signing of an executive order titled Fostering the Future for American Children and Families. The executive order includes a call for the modernization of state child welfare systems and expanding the use of technology. And I am committed to help advance those priorities through our work on this subcommittee. Youth aging out of foster care are one of the most vulnerable populations in our country. 80% of foster youth experience trauma before adulthood, and nearly half have been diagnosed with mental health conditions. Foster youth have higher rates of educational dropout, early pregnancy, and unemployment. One of the most significant barriers that I'm concerned about is access to stable housing. One estimate finds that nearly 35% of former foster youth experience homelessness by age 21. Programs like Chafee play a critical role in assisting youth by helping them develop life skills, access housing, and enroll in education and training. And we know caseworkers are at the forefront of youth's experience. Caseworkers help youth navigate programs, plan their future, and work towards successful independence. Yet many states face significant costs and lengthy timelines to modernize state systems. States are continuing to rely on decade-old technology, such as green screen mainframes and the equivalent of electronic, quote, sticky notes. This increases administrative burden and fuels high turnover and burnout among caseworkers. It certainly does not advance our goal of improving outcomes for foster youth. Child welfare systems have not kept up with the pace of technology, and it's children and caseworkers that have felt the most impact. When caseworkers rely on spreadsheets or clunky software applications to track cases, it does not create an optimal environment for identifying unmet needs or helping youth cultivate relationships with family and kin, things that are foundational to success. We will hear today from some remarkable individuals who took their experience in the private sector and developed new technology to provide better, more advanced tools for our caseworkers, with incredible results for our foster youth. I'm convinced that federal Chafee funds could have more of an impact when paired with modern technology and newer case management tools. We know some states are testing innovative models, and I'd like to explore ways to cultivate that across the country. I look forward to working with my colleagues on the subcommittee and the full committee to take what we have learned from these hearings to develop ways to improve Chafee and other federal programs supporting our foster youth. Thank you again for our witnesses for being here today, and I look forward to a substantive and productive hearing today. With that, I now recognize the ranking member and my friend, Congressman Danny Davis.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for calling this hearing. And I also want to appreciate your continued focus on children and families that experience foster care. And I look forward to working with you again and appreciate all of our witnesses for being here today as well. Especially do I want to welcome Ms. Carr, who not only lives in the greatest city in this country, but also lives in the community where I live, work, and have the honor of representing. So thank you very much for your work and for being here. Over 3,000 youth between 16 and 20 live in our home state of Illinois. Despite important policy improvements over the past few decades, our foster care system continues to fail many of those youth and their peers in other states. We have a big problem, and it will require a big solution. The answer begins with hearing the voices of youth who experience foster care. We know that they are still struggling to overcome the trauma they experienced before and sometimes while in foster care. They need high-quality health care and mental health services. They need the basic tools of adulthood, an education, a career path, a driver's license, life skills, and most of all, they need love and stability, a stable home, and the support of family, both blood family and chosen family. Our subcommittee has an opportunity to make some simple changes that would ensure that youth can access essential supports right now. In some cases, we need to provide more information or more money to states so that they can do things we know work, like helping youth secure driver's license, safe housing, permanent families, and legal services to remove barriers to employment, education, and well-being. In others, we just need to change an outdated rule or make sure youth and caregivers know about resources that are already available. We also need to more intensively help expectant and parenting foster youth so that the entire family thrives. As we tackle the challenge of providing these youth with the kind of stability and opportunity we seek for our own children and grandchildren, we should ensure states and counties have access to key tools and can afford to use them when they fit local needs. The tools might be a specific approach to casework or service referral, free mental health services, or a piece of computer software. At the same time, we should not confuse tools with solutions. The solution is to make sure that current and former foster youth have trustworthy adults to guide them and help them learn to guide themselves. Achieving that will require significant investment. It will require reform to keep children connected to their families, even if those families are unable to care for them full time. And it will require recognizing that these youth, like their peers, will likely need financial support and a guiding hand in early adulthood, well after age 18. Our challenge has recently gotten much harder. Young adult unemployment is now over 10%, and the majority must live with family just to make ends meet. Rising prices caused by the incoherent Trump tariff policy, Republican cuts to Medicaid, nutrition and housing benefits, and most recently the refusal of congressional Republicans to prevent health insurance premiums from rising by an average of 114%, are making things difficult for all young adults. Given their circumstances, these problems fall especially hard on older foster youth. I believe that we can and must meet this challenge. Our subcommittee has a long history of bipartisan action on both immediate common sense policy changes and on bold transformative policy improvements that open a better path in the future. Older foster youth have told us what they need. All that we have to do is listen and act. So again, Mr. Chairman, I thank you for your focus and for this hearing, and yield back the balance of my time.
Thank you, Mr. Davis, for those opening remarks. We will now introduce our witnesses before us here today. Our first witness is Marty Ilisco, and he is the CEO and chairman of the board of Augantel, which is based in Chicago, Illinois. Next, we have Dr. Jennifer Jacobs, and she is the CEO and co-founder of Connect Our Kids, based in Falls Church, Virginia. Our next witness is Lashienda Carr, and she's a case specialist at Lawrence Hall, based in Chicago, Illinois. Adrian Lewis joins us, and he is the founder and president of Care Portal, based in Stillwell, Kansas. And lastly, we have Mr. Michael Leach, and he is the Chief External Engagement Officer of Think of Us, based in Washington, D.C. Welcome to all of you for being here today. Mr. Ilisco, we'll start with you, and you're recognized for 5 minutes to deliver your opening statement.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman LaHood, Ranking Member Davis, and members of the subcommittee. My name is Marty Ilisco, and I'm the CEO of Augantel, a Chicago-based AI company dedicated to child welfare. Before Augantel, I spent 15 years at Motorola, designing public safety radio systems and helping the VA adopt patient safety technology. And from this, learned how to bring cutting-edge technology to government. Also, social services, entrepreneurship, and job creation runs in my family. In fact, Representative Davis, over 100 years ago, my great-grandfather started a candy distribution business, the Maywood Candy Company, right in your district. We hear a lot about the future of AI, but I'm going to share how AI is improving safety, permanency, and well-being, the core goals of child welfare today, and how it will help take child welfare where it needs to be. Our AI is strengthening organizations such as the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services, the Allegheny Department of Human Services, and nonprofits such as the California-based AspiraNet that focuses on youth transitioning out of foster care. Directly, we equip caseworkers with the ability to detect early signs of harm. Directly related to President Trump's executive order mentioned earlier, directing the use of AI to modernize child welfare systems, there is much that government can learn from us and states and counties that are already doing it well. Child welfare workers are some of the most dedicated professionals in government. They are the lifeline between children, families, and the support they need, but have too much administrative and compliance work and too little insight into the children and families they care for to get the job done. If you visit a child welfare office, you will undoubtedly see caseworkers working with outdated technology, clicking through case notes one by one. They are forced to spend about half their day on administrative work rather than engaging with families. My Augantel co-founders and I knew AI could solve these various serious problems. We wanted to do it right. Build AI that would be trusted by social workers and fit to their stressful, oftentimes traumatic work. We interviewed hundreds of social workers. We hired former social workers. And today, Augantel is used across the US. Imagine if you were a social worker trying to understand an older youth's housing history to help them gain housing support. You would have to read through hundreds of notes. In fact, 80% of all child welfare data is in the notes, or what we call unstructured data, and it's nearly impossible to find. It's been this way for decades. It is here where caseworkers and leaders are most fearful that early signs of harm may fall through the cracks, and why you read about tragedies in the newspaper. Augantel uniquely solves this by unearthing critical information buried in the notes in these outdated systems, all while making it super easy for social workers to use. We call this content intelligence, and you can think of it as an internet search engine or even Gen AI, but built for child welfare. It's already saving each social worker up to 5 hours per week, giving them the time they need to be more effective, and we're just getting started. Illinois DCFS Director Heidi Miller, author of the policy and practice article, Artificial Intelligence in Child Welfare, stated, quote, "We use AI from Augentel to access narrative data to deliver insights that leadership can count on, better identify the needs of families we serve, and empower staff," end quote. Back to the core goals of child welfare. We're making it possible to improve safety by identifying early warning signs of harm that social workers then can proactively act upon. We accelerate finding permanent living situations by tripling the size of the child's network of family and kinship supports. And we improve well-being by surfacing unmet needs so families can be provided with the services to address those needs. It's here where the rubber meets the road, and it's here where lives are improved. For example, teenage pregnancy in foster care can be a significant risk. In Illinois, DCFS offers fantastic programs to support expectant mothers. However, these programs go underutilized because outdated systems cannot identify if a young woman is pregnant. Augentel surfaces this, notifies staff, and outreach occurs. Before Augentel, DCFS knew of less than 100 expectant mothers in their care. Then with AI, they became aware of 621 more who can now make use of this program. Similarly, AI extends across all types of unmet needs, such as with youth transitioning out of foster care. We make it possible for teens who want a college education to be connected to the Chafee program to fund their education and maximize the use of federal resources available to them. Simply put, AI provides the fix to fix the day-to-day work of child welfare at scale and put children and families on the right path. I'll also note that we don't need to replace outdated systems or wait to replace outdated systems. We overlay them and were implemented in months, not years. I've just scratched the surface. We have so many more examples of success that should be scaled across the US and can be done now. Driven by the executive order, states need encouragement, funding, and the elimination of red tape. And thanks to the work already being done, they don't need to start at square one. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Olesko. We'll now recognize Dr. Jacobs for your 5 minutes.
I don't think it's working. We're already disrupting systems.
Should I switch seats with her? Sure, happy to.
We'll slide this over.
Thank you. And members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Dr. Jennifer Jacobs, and I am co-founder and CEO of Connect Our Kids. I'm a West Point veteran, an Army veteran, and a nuclear engineer who spent most of my career working to counter nuclear terrorism. But 14 years ago, I read an article in Time magazine and realized that some of the work done in the counterterrorism space is similar to what's needed to help keep kids in foster care connected to their most important relationships. Both connect large networks of people and data to affect the future of someone in the center. The difference is just that one centers around a terrorist and one centers around a child. But while the national security space has multi-million-dollar software with data search and management capabilities, the foster care space was doing essentially the same work with sticky notes and Excel. That led to my co-founding Connect Our Kids as a nonprofit to recreate those national security tools to help keep kids in care connected to their people. We piloted our tools in 2020 and since then have served over 30,000 children. I'd like to tell you about one of them. Maddie was introduced to our software on her second day at her new job as a social worker in Ohio. Maddie's Gen Z, so it took her about 30 seconds to learn how to use the software, which was good because she'd just been handed her first case, 14-year-old Leon. It had been 2 years since Leon's adoptive mother had left him at a behavioral facility and moved out of state. Maddie understood from her training that she needed to find Leon's people, something no one had done in his entire 2 years in foster care. With the help of our software, Maddie was soon speaking with Leon's biological aunt, who, as it turned out, lived just 6 blocks away from where Maddie was sitting in her office. The aunt said, "Bring him to me right away. I had no idea he wasn't okay." Leon went to live with his aunt, and he got to meet his 2 cousins, his 2 full brothers he didn't know he had, and his birth mother. Maddie went to visit him a month later, and she said, "It's like he's always lived there," because Leon had found his people. While Chafee funds are often used on education, employment, housing, health, and financial capability, a 6th goal sometimes gets overlooked: meaningful, permanent connections with caring adults. That 6th goal, strong relational health, includes the concepts of belonging and identity, and it is the foundation that makes the other 5 possible. Without it, progress in education, housing, health, and employment is very hard to sustain. Humans need belonging and identity in a way that tangible supports cannot provide. There are some relevant parallels with the military. 1 in 4 foster youth meet the criteria for PTSD, more than double the rate of U.S. war veterans. Injured soldiers medevaced from their combat units can experience a dangerous loss of identity and purpose, even while receiving world-class care for their physical wounds. When youth lack the identity and belonging of feeling claimed and valued by their own, they face higher risks of homelessness, incarceration, unemployment, trafficking, victimization, and poor health. By contrast, when they have strong relational health, their outcomes improve dramatically. Relationships matter. They are the protective factor that makes everything else possible. But relational health is difficult to measure. You can count housing vouchers and job placements. It's harder to quantify belonging, trust, and connection. But across the military, education, government, medicine, we routinely invest in essential skills, leadership, judgment, resilience, that are hard to measure but foundational to success. Relational health belongs in the same category. And this matters for Chafee because when a young person ages out of foster care unsupported, their lifetime cost is roughly $500,000 per youth. For every 2,000 youth, that's $1 billion. Strengthening relational health is among the most cost-effective strategies available. I recommend issuing clear federal guidance that Chafee funds can be used for the building blocks of family connection efforts, and allowing a portion of unused Chafee funds to be centrally invested in relational health education so states do not have to build these costly initiatives alone. When we surround young people with people who know them, love them, and show up for them, that web becomes not only their safety net, but also their launching pad. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jacobs. Ms. Carr, you're now recognized for 5 minutes.
Good morning. Thank you, Chairman LaHood, Ranking Member Davis, and members of the subcommittee for your leadership, for holding this important hearing, and for inviting me to share my story and perspective. It is truly an honor to be here. My name is LaShionda Carr. I have more than 9 years' experience at Lawrence Hall, a nonprofit organization that supports young people across Chicago through various programs and resources, including foster care services and transitional living programs. For the last 5 years, I have incorporated the Youth Villages Lifestyle model into my work. Growing up in Chicago, I saw firsthand the challenges that many people face. 2 people close to me, a high school friend and my own brother, experienced instability after losing their caregivers. Watching them navigate life without permanency is what moved me into social services. Their experiences are the reason I'm committed to making sure no young person has to go through that alone. and partners like Youth Villages have allowed me to live out that commitment. Youth Villages developed LifeSet in 1999 in Memphis, and today is one of the nation's largest evidence-based models, providing comprehensive support to more than 8,000 young adults last year as they leave state custody. Multiple leading researchers have evaluated LifeSet, making it one of the most studied models in the country for young people leaving foster care. I often describe LifeSet as a bridge from foster care to successful adulthood. It covers all areas that specialists work on with young people: relationships, housing, mental health, physical health, career and employment, education, and life skills. These are things that all of our young people need help with. A challenge we consistently see in Chicago is hesitancy from foster youth to engage with services. Instability from the revolving doors of professionals often pushes them towards peer groups that feel more consistent but lead to negative outcomes. Because of that, I emphasize one thing above all: consistency. Showing up every week, every time. A key component of LifeSet model is an innovative piece of technology and support that allows us to serve young people more effectively. GuideTree. It is a workforce training and development tool that combines effective conceptualization methods and structured guidance with a curated evidence-based resources. Simply stated, GuideTree offers staff a roadmap, a GPS to analyze cases, choose interventions, and provide more consistent, high-quality care to young people and their families. Its newest feature, Find Help, let us instantly locate local resources for housing, employment, mental health, and more just by entering a zip code. One young man I worked with, Dion, illustrates the complex problems facing many of the young people we help. When he was assigned to me, Dion had just been discharged from a high-intensity residential placement and was still in high school. He had unmanaged diabetes, mental health concerns, and no family involvement, making him vulnerable to high-risk behaviors that brought him before the justice system. I used many of GuideTree interventions as I step-by-step helped Dion identify his goals and achieve them. Over more than a year of his participation in LifeSet, we were able to stabilize his living situation, rebuild his relationship with his father, help him graduate from high school, and get his diabetes under control. He's still doing very well. Dion's story reflects the need we see every day: mental health support, stable housing, navigating education and work, and most importantly, finding consistent adults who don't give up on them. Youth Villages provides LifeSet through direct services and licenses, trains, and supports 26 other agencies to implement the model. Lawrence Hall is one of the 5 providers in Illinois who use LifeSet to support older youth in TLP and ILO for extended foster care. Several things distinguish LifeSet from other models: serving young adults aging out of child welfare systems, most notably the continuous specialized professional development for specialists through weekly supervision and consultation. This allows a specialist to constantly upgrade their skills for working with this population. This engagement and specialization means specialists can address each young adult's needs and goals in both an individualized and holistic way. One of the biggest differences LifeSet made for me as a specialist was reducing my caseload from 12 to 14 youth down to just 6 or 8. This shift allows for more intentional, individualized support for young people. I meet with each person face-to-face every week, and we communicate by phone and text between meetings. LifeSet also provides 24/7 on-call support, so young people are never alone in a crisis. As we think about modernizing the Chafee program to better serve young people, it is essential to fund innovation, grow promising practices, and create a robust evidence base of what works. States and counties should incorporate proven programs that effectively meet real-life needs, including housing, transportation, and mental health support. Thank you again for the opportunity to be here. I look forward to your questions.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Carr. Mr. Lewis, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Good morning, Chairman LaHood, Ranking Member Davis, members of the Ways and Means Subcommittee. I am so grateful to be here, and I am thrilled that you are having this conversation. Innovative technology can open the door to networks of caring adults and vital support for youth in foster care. And it can reduce isolation and build enduring partnerships between faith communities and businesses and government. And it already is. My name is Adrian Lewis. I'm the founder of Care Portal, a national technology platform that connects caseworkers who identify needs with faith communities and businesses and individuals ready to help them in real time. Through deep local partnerships, we have built a care-sharing network with 6,000 faith communities and 1,500 agencies. The Wall Street Journal called Care Portal the Uber of child welfare. Before we ever built this technology, though, my wife and I adopted 3 of our 6 children through foster care. And what we have seen firsthand has taught us what truly matters to help families heal: connection. At the June hearing, Chairman LaHood said that our goal should be to help young people gain employment, obtain housing, and create meaningful connections with adults. Meaningful connection is what Care Portal was designed for. We believe that everyone has a role in supporting youth and families in child welfare, and Care Portal makes that possible at scale. And so far, responders in the Care Portal network have met the needs of 6,004 youth aging out of foster care. Micaiah was one of those youth. She was about to turn 18 and age out of the foster care system, and she was pregnant and alone. And when I say alone, I mean she had no family, she had no resources. But she did have a caseworker who had Care Portal, and her caseworker submitted a request on the platform for a crib and some baby supplies. And within hours, the Denbo family from a nearby faith community responded, and they delivered the items and began a relationship with Micaiah, hosting her baby shower, helping her get through driver's ed. The Denbos went from neighbor to friend to family. And because of that connection, Micaiah's baby never entered foster care. Today, she's an amazing mom, mentoring other youth aging out of the foster care system, and that is the power of meaningful connection. Care Portal reaches beyond youth aging out across the entire spectrum from prevention to permanency. And as of today, our network has helped 608,970 children and caregivers across 39 states, including all those represented by this subcommittee. Requests range from a bed for a grandmother raising her grandson, to a car for a new father to get to work, to groceries for a struggling young mom. Each request is an opportunity to provide both resources and relationship for families in crisis. But to truly support families, we must also support the professionals who serve them. In a survey with over 70,000 responses, 96% of caseworkers said that connections through Care Portal made them feel more supported in their work. This aligns directly with the Fostering the Future initiative announced last Thursday, which places technology and faith community partnerships at the center of improving connections for children and families, and Care Portal is already delivering on that vision. And thanks to you, last year's bipartisan Title IV-B reauthorization now enables promoting safe and stable family funds for digital portals, facilitating community support to families. Recent HHS guidelines also clarify that Title IV-E dollars may be used for service referral and outreach tools. Much is being done, and there are some additional things that could be done. 1, authorize and incentivize states to use Chafee funds for technology that strengthens relationships and expands access to concrete supports. 2, repurpose returned funds to create a set-aside for scaling technologies like Care Portal that increase connections, boost efficiency, and engage youth. And 3, offer an enhanced federal match for states adopting technologies that improve relational permanency and streamlined administration of Chafee funds. Together, these steps would help to mainstream care sharing, creating an on-demand community network as accessible as ride sharing, supporting youth aging out and reaching more than 1 million children and families each year from prevention to permanency. In closing, government cannot love a child, but neighbors can. My hope is that you will take this innovation and empower neighbors to see and serve their most vulnerable neighbors, one meaningful connection at a time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Mr. Leach, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
I think we're having the same issue as that one.
Innovation.
All right. Chairman LaHood, Ranking Member Davis, and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Michael Leach, and I serve as the Chief External Engagement Officer at Think of Us. Before this role, I spent more than 20 years inside state systems. In Tennessee, I was the Director of Systems Integration, Director of Continuous Quality Improvement, Director of Independent Living, and I ended as the Deputy Commissioner, and in South Carolina as the State Director of Social Services. I share that because in those roles, I had the authority to pick up the phone and call the governor when something wasn't working. And yet, even with all that authority, I spent too many nights knowing we weren't meeting the needs of young people counting on us. In my 2 decades, we're still seeing the same outcomes. We poured everything we had into supporting older youth, every Chafee dollar, every ETV dollar, and it still wasn't enough. No matter how hard we pushed, young people slipped through our fingers. That's the truth I want to start with today. Jasmine entered care at 14 after experiencing sexual abuse at the hand of her mother's boyfriend. I'll be honest that Jasmine was difficult. She was angry in all the ways we expect from a young person who has experienced trauma. She was also bright, determined, and funny. She spent most of her adolescence bouncing between different families, group homes, case managers, constant turnover, and she never stayed anywhere long enough to build relationships. Jasmine didn't have anybody to rely on except for the system. She didn't have any family. She had no mentors, no coaches, no one who saw something in her and took her under her wing. To stay in extended foster care, Jasmine had to follow strict eligibility guidelines, but she was young. She had to do her thing, fail, do her thing, fail, make those mistakes. My fear was always, how many times is she going to make mistakes or make bad decisions before the system stops helping her and she's on her own with nobody? Where's she going to go with no job skills, with a high school education and nobody to guide her along the way? That's what happened. We lost her over time. She ultimately left care, and once she was gone, we couldn't help her. When I think of Jasmine, I think of my own teenage son. He needs what every adolescent needs. Someone to push him to try new things, to challenge him, to believe in him when he messes up. He has that. He has his mom. He has me. We show up. We drive him to practice. We push him to join a club. We stay present when he struggles. We love him for exactly who he is, no matter what. But Jasmine didn't have that. Every adult in her life was paid staff, specialists, caseworkers. And with all the turnover, no one stayed long enough to really know her. She needed the system to step in and play the role that family plays, to push her, to guide her, and stay with her long enough for trust to take root, to love her. A system cannot love a child, but a system can make sure a young person finds the people who can. A system can help build the opportunities, the developmental programs, the healing supports, the steady adults that let a young person recover from wounds that no child should ever carry. That's what Jasmine needed, and that's what an older youth system has to deliver. And as we think about a new system, technology will be essential. Technology helps us scale what works. It accelerates good practice, but none of it will work unless it is in service to a fundamentally redesigned system, one built around family, healing, stability, and real developmental opportunities. If we build that foundation, technology will help us scale it. But without a stronger system beneath it, technology will only accelerate our failures. Our young people deserve better than a faster path back to the same broken place. Members of the subcommittee, thank you for the recent laws you've passed, for the more frequent hearings, and for keeping older youth at the forefront. For years, the stories in these hearings have echoed the same painful patterns. What can make today different is what you choose to do next. I end with Jasmine and the hope that somewhere out there she found what every young person deserves: healing, stability, and family. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leach. And let me just acknowledge all of our witnesses today for your passion on this particular subject and your commitment and dedication to looking for more innovative ways and to use new technology to help improve our foster care system. That has definitely come across in your opening statements here today, and we are grateful for that. We are now going to move to questions from the subcommittee members. And I'm going to start off with my questions. My first question will go to you, Mr. Lesko. In your testimony, you highlighted how Illinois and the company that you worked for, Augentel's technology, has helped caseworkers search for information for their case notes. A study conducted by HHS in June found that caseworkers spend an average of 4 out of 8 hours per day on administrative tasks. My question for you is, how does Augentel's technology empower caseworkers to shift from a culture of compliance and administrative tasks to one that allows them to spend more time serving and focusing on foster youth?
Thank you for the question. Funding streams are the reason that caseworkers are required to spend so much time on administrative and compliance work. They need to document the work that's being done so that they remain in compliance with the regulations tied to those funding streams. So agencies worried about losing their funding overburden caseworkers with tasks, making them responsible for doing the work in alignment with this compliance. What our AI does is this compliance work in the background. I'll give a specific example. In Illinois, there are requirements around visiting children in a specific amount of time. The data that was in their outdated system could not show the entire scope of this work. There are what are called good faith efforts that are made that are considered visits. So what the AI did was look in the background for all of the examples of visits and good faith efforts, and Illinois went from not exceeding the requirements in an audit to far exceeding the requirements in an audit without requiring caseworkers to do any more compliance work. There are so many different audits that they're required to work on or complete documents for that it overburdens them. So what we're doing is giving them back time away from the compliance work. But more importantly, because we're giving them back time and because we're giving them back the data about families, we help them to establish trust with the children and families they're caring for. They don't have to ask that family to repeat their story over and over again every time there's a new caseworker on the case. That information is delivered to the caseworker, and what we've heard is that children are now finally feeling heard by the system because the caseworker is coming prepared to that visit with them or that phone call with them. It establishes this trust, and it establishes helping them get set on the right path.
Thank you for that. Dr. Jacobs, in your testimony, you discussed the importance of identifying a supportive network for foster youth. The use of your technology has helped find a remarkable average of 30 connections per youth. How do you believe the Shafee program can be improved to help youth make permanent connections with family or other stable adults?
Thank you for that question. The Shafee program can be improved by making it clear that these funds can be used to help states build these family connecting tools, training, and education. As we've heard here several times, technology is not a solution, it's a force multiplier. So those who are going to use the tools need the training and education to understand why relationships matter so much for human beings. When they have that understanding, they dive into this work with a passion, and that's where technology allows their efforts to be multiplied.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Ms. Carr, I'm going to turn to you next. Access to stable housing is something you talked about in your opening statement and is one of the top concerns when it comes to foster youth. According to federal data, 34% of foster youth experience some type of homelessness. Based on your experience as a caseworker, what do you believe makes the biggest difference in reducing homelessness?
Thank you for that question. Based on my experience, I think that early on support and prevention methods, helps with supporting and reducing homeless and youth that's in the age population that I support. Utilizing Guidetree, it helps us to recognize drivers that will help support the youth with their transition. For example, the case that I used, Dion. When I got that youth, I basically went through this portal, Guidetree, found some interventions and some things that I can work on that would benefit him. One of those resources was pulling family supports. Through pulling family supports and working with that young man, I was able to get information for his father and able to bridge that gap and get them back together and stabilize his placement in the community.
Thank you for that. Mr. Lewis, I'll turn to you next. In my home state of Illinois, Care Portal has served more than 2,000 foster youth and families involved with the child welfare system over the past 3 years. Is Care Portal able to track outcomes for youth, and how do you assess performance to ensure resources are getting where they're needed?
I appreciate the question. 2 parts there. On the first part, where we've seen the most evidence of success is through the lived experience of caseworkers and responders and people engaging with the families. Remember, what we're after here is meaningful connection. We're after establishing relationships where love and stability and support of a family can make a difference. And so the one example I gave you, the 70,000 caseworkers who were surveyed, we have tons of that kind of data. Where we are building our credibility and our opportunity here is through outcomes like evidence-based research. We have the beginnings of one in Florida, but we have lots of opportunity to go deeper in that. So there's room with resources to be made available for us to do more research to just prove how relationships make a difference in people's lives. As far as resources are concerned, this is the beauty of it. The caseworkers are the ones who close the requests. So when a caseworker submits a request on behalf of a mom who's trying to keep her kids out of care or a youth who's aging out, the caseworker has a relationship there already, and the caseworker is the one who says, yes, so-and-so from the community met this need, and now I can close it. And so the reliability of the need actually being met comes because the caseworker says it happened, and if the caseworker says it didn't happen, then it didn't.
Thank you for that. That concludes my questions. I'm next going to turn to the ranking member, Mr. Davis, for your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks to all of the witnesses. Mr. Leach, in your testimony, you said that the number one predictor of a youth's success is being loved and knowing they will continue to be loved. And I noticed that Mr. Lewis indicated and suggested that government cannot necessarily love a youth, but certainly neighbors, caseworkers, and all of the rest of us, certainly as individuals and as agencies, can. So, Mr. Leach, based on your extensive experience in Tennessee and South Carolina, what would you say are the most effective ways for child welfare programs to ensure economic and housing stability, as well as connection to loving relationships for these older young people?
Thank you for the question. I think first and foremost, I think the best thing we can do for young people is work to prevent them from coming into foster care. How do we strengthen that family unit before it gets all the way down the line to where there is a referral or a need for child welfare? What can we provide that family? In-home services, concrete supports, things that address the poverty or the neglect or whatever it may be. That should be and is our focus. But when a young person does come into care, we have to really wrap around them. And first and foremost is trying to build that connection. Is that with the foster family? Is that with a coach, mentor? Every young person needs at least one caring adult they can rely on. They also do need effective supports. They need that are concrete. We need stable housing options, help with employment and education, and keeping health care food supports. All of those things are necessary for a young person to survive and thrive. But again, we have to, one, first focus on that connection and then wrap around all those other supports and services.
You also indicated that youth need answers for legal questions. What kind of legal questions do they ask?
Youth do face time-sensitive legal challenges that hit during transition periods when youth have the least support, and that can escalate quickly. So things that are threatening young people's housing, educational goals, income, family stability. Some of the legal supports that we see needed are eviction defense, right? Being kicked out of their homes. Guardianship and custody support, access to vital records, navigation of public benefits. At Think of Us, we have community responders that every day meet with youth and families who are reaching out for support on those things. Through our navigation, our VSS, or our virtual support services navigator technology program. And it's a wraparound model that gives young people and families direct access to resources. And to go to your question, 18% of those requests from transition age youth have been related to legal representation.
Thank you.
But one more thing, sorry. The other main things above that, financial, food, housing, clothing, all of those concrete support things.
Ms. Carr, if I might ask you, and again, thank you for your work. Illinois has opted to provide extended foster care through age 21, which means that youth in our LifeSet program are provided with supervised or community-based housing. LifeSet, however, allows for exceptions to the requirement that older youth in foster care be employed or enrolled in school. If a youth fails or have a problem, does that affect their housing? And does it prepare you to help them feel comfortable and know that they're probably not going to lose it?
Thank you for that question. No, if a youth fails or they're not consistent with employment, that does not affect their housing. What we do is we go back to that innovation, Godtree. We look up those housing. We look up that referral issue. Why is your education not stable? Why is your employment not stable? We are allowed to work on those things. We get interventions, we goal set, and we bring it back to ensure, like, hey, if you have consistent if you have consistent employment, you do well with education, whether it's a training program, whether it's you're going to school, you're trying to obtain your high school diploma or GED. This, in the long run, once your support is no longer with us, this will help you stabilize your placement and your housing in the future.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your indulgence.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Pursuant to committee practice, we'll now move to 2-to-1 questioning. I recognize Mr. Carey of Ohio.
I want to thank the chairman. I want to thank all the witnesses here today. As with any young person, foster youth aging out of the child welfare system need supportive networks that they can rely on as they turn and they navigate into adulthood. We've seen a lot of these outdated technologies, many of them going back to the 1970s, 1980s, 1990s. Connect Our Kids' efforts as a modern, innovative approach to finding families has helped find more than 8,400 connections for foster youth just in my home state of Ohio. And I'm, Dr. Jacobs, I'm going to ask you a question. Ms. Carr, I'm going to ask you a question if my time permits. I'm just putting you on the lineup. But Mr. Lewis, I want to talk to you just briefly. Sunday morning, I have a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old at the home. When my wife is able to allow me, I'm able to watch CBS Sunday Morning. And this Sunday, they had a wonderful episode discussing people that are in the workplace but they're living in temporary housing. Many have credit issues because, and they're working full-time. Spaces that not much bigger than where I just went and got coffee for three of us up here. As you are navigating and all the things that you're doing in this space, and reaching out into the network that you have, is housing something that that people can log on? And because I think these temporary places, they have to go online. It's $75 a night, but if they can't do it online because they don't have access to that, then it's $85. I mean, it's ridiculous. So I just didn't know whether that was a service, and I know it's not part of the line of questioning, but while I had you here, it was fresh on my mind.
I appreciate it. There's a really important detail here in how care sharing works. The first is that the requests don't come from individuals on their own behalf. They always come from a professional. So a caseworker working for child welfare or for a school or for a homeless shelter, in the case that you described, a caseworker would say, hey, we have this family who's currently living this situation, and here is what they need. That provides the credibility and the trustworthiness so that the responders, when they receive that notification instantly, they don't have to wonder, is this need valid? Yeah. They just have to wonder, should I or can I meet this need? And so whether it's homelessness and there's a family on the street, or whether it's a father who needs a car, or whatever it is, the credibility through the vetting of the request is actually what establishes the value. And we have seen, to the point that you're making, many times where a family who is in a homeless or on the edge situation is vouched for by a caseworker, and that need is met, and they are moved from bad situation to better situation.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis, and I do want to follow up with you on that. Dr. Jacobs, number one, appreciate your service. But can you describe the outdated methods of families finding that exist in the state child welfare agencies, and how can states take a more technological approach to this?
Thank you. Existing and previous technologies ranged from paper, making family trees on paper, making notes on sticky notes that get lost and fall behind the desk, to long lists in Microsoft Excel or Microsoft Word, notebooks that get left on the Starbucks counter, and everything in between. We have developed tools to help not only keep that information collected in one place for easy access, as many of our users will say, now I can see everything in one place, but also to allow a team to work together and to see that information together. We have also found that it's not enough to have technology. Technology is a multiplier. You need to have the people using it, but it's also important to understand why you're using the tools that are being used. Our tools are not simply case management. That's not really what they're designed for. They're specifically custom designed for the purpose of finding that network of the youth's own people. And we've also recently launched what we're calling Connect Our Kids University, an online, on-demand professional education system that allows social workers to learn why relationships are so important and how neuroplasticity affects the ability to heal.
Doctor, I really appreciate it, Ms. Carr. I was going to ask you a question, but my time is out, so I will submit your question for the record. And with that, I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Carey. Recognize Mr. Yakum of Indiana.
Thank you, Chairman LaHood, for holding this hearing, and also thank you to our witnesses for being here today to discuss some important and bipartisan issues. I'd like to start by thanking Mr. Lewis and the Care Portal team for your incredible work in my home state of Indiana. The Care Portal connects families to physical resources they need through local partners, from car seats to cribs to clothing, all at no cost. As of September of this year, over 10,000 Hoosier children have been served through this important service. Being able to help a family meet their tangible needs quickly can be the difference between family preservation and children entering foster care. Care Portal's services are also essential to youth who are aging out of the system. Mr. Lewis, in your testimony, you shared the story of how Care Portal helped a young woman, Makaisha, an 18-year-old who was pregnant and transitioning out of foster care. Through Care Portal, she was connected with the Denbo family, who gave her a crib and baby supplies. Eventually, Makaisha and the Denbos built a trusting relationship, and they became close friends. Today, Makaisha is a successful mother who mentors young moms who are aging out of care. Can you share how Care Portal helps prevent young kids from entering foster care?
Thank you, sir. So prevention is a complicated thing. There are no single silver bullets. I wouldn't say that Care Portal by itself can do all that needs to be done to help a child or not go into the system in the first place. But I can say that when you have the opportunity to meet a need in a crisis moment, in a moment where this family not only is lacking hope, but they're lacking access to what they need in that moment, the difference that can be made with those resources that are relevant to the moment they're in and the connection to somebody in the community who, by the way, is motivated by love. When somebody shows up at your house and they are a professional, they have a job to do. When someone shows up at your house and they are a neighbor, they are there for you. And that makes all the difference when we are trying to help a family feel like you can do this and we are here for you.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. You know, you said something in your opening testimony that really struck me, and that is, quote, government cannot love a child, but neighbors can. And what your portal provides is not a big government solution, but neighbors helping neighbors. And I want to thank you for that incredible service.
Thank you, sir. The comment there's not a lack of resources or people who care in our country for their neighbors. There is a lack of connection. And all Care Portal does is facilitate those connections at scale so that the resources and relationships can get to where they need to go when they need to be there.
Thank you. Mr. Lisko, teenagers in foster care are more likely to become young parents when compared to their peers, and many youth have limited knowledge of parenting skills. One study conducted in 2019 found that 49% of women in foster care were pregnant by the age of 21, and 33% of young men reported getting someone pregnant. Dense case notes and caseworker turnover can lead to gaps in knowledge about a youth's needs. How can Augentel's technology help caseworkers identify the unmet needs of foster youth so they can intervene and connect them with necessary services?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Connecting children to resources to address unmet needs is, like I said earlier, where the rubber meets the road. This is how the support they need arrives to them so that they can interact with the services that are provided by government. To get a little technical, our AI uses a technology called natural language processing that looks in text for data. What we've done is tailor that technology to the language of child welfare to look for all sorts of different topics: risks, strengths, social determinants, unmet needs, early warning signs. It reads through every single note in a child welfare SACWA system, that's the name of one of these systems, in real time on a daily basis, looking for language that communicates an unmet need. Then, once it identifies that, it notifies the caseworker that there is an unmet need so that they can go proactively reach out to the child or the young adult and refer them to that program, help them get into that program. All of this data exists in these legacy systems, but these legacy systems cannot surface the data for caseworkers to make use of it. What AI does is essentially sit on top of these systems, add this capability to notify these caseworkers. The data's there. They just can't find it. So acquiring a tool that helps them find it is the way to foster these connections and resources between children and what they need.
Thank you. And Mr. Chairman, I ask that this article on the impact of Augentel's technology on child welfare be entered into the record.
Without objection.
Thank you, and Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Yakum. Now recognize Ms. Chu of California.
Well, I want to thank all the witnesses for all the work that you're doing for our foster youth, and thank you for testifying today. And Mr. Leach, I wanted to ask about the funding for the Chafee program. Since the Chafee program was founded in 1999, 26 years ago, for only 1 year did it not have just level funding. For all those years, it was just level funding. And as a result, Chafee has done an amazing job, but sometimes with very limited funds. And it was during the pandemic in 2021 that Congress did provide an extra $400 million for the Chafee program to help states better meet the needs of older foster youth. I understand you led South Carolina's Department of Social Services during that time. Can you talk about the difference that this temporary increase made in terms of the services and support that South Carolina was able to provide to older foster youth? And what would it mean if Congress was able to provide a permanent funding increase for Chafee?
Yeah, thank you for that question. That temporary Chafee increase made an immediate and measurable difference in South Carolina. It allowed us to stabilize housing for every young person who was on the brink of homelessness, right? People didn't have jobs at that point in time. They were losing their jobs. Things were closing down, couldn't pay their rent. That helped cover those young people for that period of time. We expanded access to laptops and technology so they could stay connected to school and work. Covered critical mental health supports due to isolation and other things that were going on. We provided direct financial help for jobs and income that disappeared almost overnight. And for the first time, we could meet the needs quickly without forcing young people to navigate a maze of paperwork. It was amazing. It allowed us to act more like parents that these young people deserved. And at the time, we inquired to see if there was additional dollars that we could apply for because we had spent it. And many other states weren't able to spend it in time due to the timelines. So we were able to get more dollars 2 different times to make sure our young people's needs were met during that time. If there was that flexibility this day, then we would be doing a lot better.
Thank you for that. And now I'd like to ask about a specific program within Chafee, the Educational and Training Voucher, or ETV program, which helps older foster youth to be able to afford higher education. Right now, only about a third of foster youth who attend college receive an ETV. And we know that this is partly because many aren't aware of the program. So even though they may desperately need help with all, the tuition, the books, everything during that time period, they may not have access to these funds. And in fact, I recall just earlier this year when we had a foster youth testify right before this very committee, he said he did not find about the ETV, these vouchers, until it was too late to use it. So we need to have a better way of telling our older foster youth that this exists. And so to address this, those with lived experiences have recommended new policies like requiring states to conduct peer-to-peer outreach to older youth and to inform all foster youth about ETV at every caseworker meeting and every court or administrative hearing or some such meetings starting at age 14. So do you think these policies would be helpful to improving youth awareness and their ability to access these vouchers? Are there any other outreach strategies that would be helpful based on your experiences?
Yeah, I do think that the more we talk about it and the more we are proactive in not waiting for young people to come to us, but we have to go to them. And we have to make sure these technologies also that are out there can also help with that disconnection. I think one big reason young people don't use ETV sometimes is because college still costs more than the voucher covers. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
$5,000? I mean, maybe back 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So, why bother, right? All the paperwork I have to do to get that amount of money and still have to figure out how to cover the rest, right? Even with Pell and other stuff, it's expensive. And there are other barriers. Again, like you said, don't know about the program. They have, lots of forms to fill out. They're moving frequently, losing paperwork, and have to survive, right? Like, it's hard to think about education and employment and those things when you're just trying to get by and get through. And that's really hard. Now, we can do a better job for sure with connecting, but there are some other things within the system we need to redo.
Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you, Ms. Chu. Mr. Miller of Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to our witnesses and for your testimony here. Really appreciate the lived experience, and it's very helpful for someone like me, and I believe every member, regardless of political affiliation. So thank you very much. Today, the subcommittee examines how technology and innovation can help foster youth successfully and transition to a bright future. Last week, in an executive action, the Trump administration highlighted their own efforts to harness federal support, technology, and strategic partnerships to provide young Americans in or transitioning out of the foster care system with the tools they need to become successful adults. This initiative includes establishment of a Fostering the Future program to develop partnerships with agencies and leading private sector organizations, academic institutions, and nonprofit entities to create new educational and employment opportunities for individual and foster care system. The John H. Chafee Foster Care Program includes valuable resources such as education and training vouchers, ETVs, to assist youth with the cost of higher education. These create pathways to long-term stability and success, reaching students enrolled at Cuyahoga County Community College, impacting my congressional district, and setting a solid foundation for long-term success. Additionally, organizations such as Foster Success in my home state of Ohio and other regions support teens and young adults transitioning out of the foster care and reaching their goals. Ohio's ETV program is a federally funded, state-administered effort that provides financial and academic support for young adults who have left the foster care system and are enrolled in qualified colleges, universities, or vocational education. Noting the challenging outcomes of youth who age out of foster care, as only 56% of former foster youth transition to full-time employment, we must empower those in foster care to meet their full potential. Ms. Carr, one of my top priorities in Congress has been to expand career opportunities for our youth. While the Chafee program ETVs are primarily used for 2- or 4-year degrees, President Trump's recent executive order calls for increasing flexibility to expand access to short-term credential programs. How does this model support youth in accessing workforce opportunities that federal programs like Chafee are intended to provide and empower youth, such as those in my district who have expressed interest in trade schools, career or technical education?
Thank you for that question. To circle back what Ms. Chu initially asked, what we're doing in Illinois is we're getting away from the paperwork. We're sending links directly to those youth phones so that they're aware of ETV, and we're bringing that to them as soon as they enter our care. Like as soon as they come to us, the transitional living program through LifeSet, we're letting them know, hey, you don't have to just think about a four-year university. Right now in this economy, that is extremely expensive. However, if you're into welding, if you're into cosmetology, barber, construction, we're here to help you. And these funds, this is where the ETV funds really show up and show out. While they're not, they don't really put a dent in the university funding, or I'm sorry, the university amount. It really helps, and it goes a long way in those welding programs, in those trade programs. So what we're doing is we're brainstorming with the youth. Hey, you don't have to go to a university. I understand. We're not going to push a university on you. You are the driver. What do you want to do? Okay, you would like to see some results soon? Let's get you enrolled in a trade program. Let's utilize, again, back to Guytree. Let's utilize this. Let's break it down. Let's look at the pros and the cons. This is what you can achieve right now. This is what you can achieve within 6 months, 9 months. I just recently had a youth that graduated this summer from a welding program, and she is a young lady. She's excited, and this is a young lady that had 1 year she had 1 year of college under her belt. She decided to take that chance and change and go into a trade program, and she did utilize those ETV funds with her certificate, as well as with her trade program, as well as the university. And she did see that she was able to get all of her books, the equipment, because welding equipment is kind of expensive, but she was able to see those funds be beneficial to her.
Yeah, thank you very much for that answer. And I think you all are hitting the nail on the head when it comes to connectivity. And there's a bit of a generational problem throughout our country and in many places, right? But from what I can see is that whether we like it or not, even my daughter, who is just 2 years old, right, is already looking at things like this. Now, she doesn't have one and hopefully won't for a very, very long time, okay? No, don't say that, Mr. Don't you say that. I would like to go till 21. She signed a contract. She doesn't know about it. We'll get to that later. But you're absolutely right. Everything is connectivity. And even, I was in the military, and, when you get out, there are so many opportunities. And I don't mean to go off, but to make an analogy off on a tangent, but, when I got out, right, whether there are opportunities at the Veterans Affairs or if I needed to collect disability or I needed follow-on, whatever it may have been, if they would have sent it to my cell phone, okay, I guarantee you it would have been a lot easier for me to figure out because I'm more apt and I'm on it all the time. And look, this is the way our world works. So thank you very much for everything that you do. Mr. Chairman, I know I'm out of time, and I have questions that I'll put into the record. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mr. Miller. Now recognize Mr. Bean of Florida.
Very good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning to you, and good morning, Work and Welfare Committee, and to our all-star panel. Welcome to Congress. You'll always be able to say, that time I testified before Congress. I also want to acknowledge I watched the room as you testify, and you've got fans in the audience that are nodding when you gave your testimony. I also recognize that we're from all over the country, and I know we're from all over the political spectrum. If only the headlines would say tomorrow, Congress comes together to put kids first. Don't hold your breath on that one. People want permanency. Congress or kids want permanency, and I come from the Florida legislature, and I know the committee has heard this, but it still is ingrained in me. At a hearing in the Florida legislature, there was a kid just a few months away from turning 18, and he had talked about his adoption hearing, and somebody asked him, why are you so gung-ho? You're about to be an adult. Why does adoption matter? And he said, and he thought, and he said, I guess I'll always have a place to go home to Thanksgiving. And with Thanksgiving just 8 days away, we want more kids to have that place to go home to Thanksgiving. If they don't have a connection or a place to go, we know the numbers are against them. If you're at 18, if you age out at 18, at 21, 31% of foster youth experience some type of homelessness. 55% of foster youth don't obtain full-time employment or a place to go by 21, except for your welder mentee, who's going to be richer than all of us. Welding, that's exciting. Less than 25% of foster youth are enrolled in some type of graduate or undergraduate program or schooling or trade school. It's just the numbers are stacked against us. Now, listen, I've already taken notes. Technology is a must. We've got to embrace it. We don't. I know everybody knows what sticky notes are. In our briefing, many caseworkers are using sticky notes. Everybody knows what those are. They're using Yellow Pages and the phone book. Under 40, you don't know what that is, but it's a big book that was Google before there was Google. So we know technology. We want to embrace technology. We want to offer flexibility. Dr. Jacobs, you mentioned that. Let's get flexibility. But I'm going to go off script and ask you, is there, and you got to be brief because I'm already going to run out of time and Chairman LaHood's going to bang me out of order, but here's your chance. Everybody's going to get a chance. What one thing does Congress need to do to improve Chafee? We all agree. We're going to improve it and success, but does anybody want to jump in, have a thought? If there's one thing Congress was to do, what would we do? Dr. Jacobs, jump in. What say you?
Emphasize the importance of relational health above all else in order that all the other goals can succeed. You're from Florida. You probably know better than the rest of us the folly of building on shifting sand. If you do these other tangible supports without first ensuring that relationships are strong and that the child is part of a network of connected adults that are with them for life and for free, you're building on shifting sand.
Love it. No, I love that. They've got to know that somebody cares about them. Somebody will miss them. Mr. Lewis, you're a superstar dad because you adopted 3 and you put your money where your mouth is. What say you, my friend?
You have to ask my kids if they think I'm a superstar dad. Yeah. However, I will say that a couple days ago, my 18-year-old, the oldest of the 3 that we adopted, he came to me and he said, hey, so can I get like some free college He's a senior. Can I get some free college because I was adopted? I was like, well, no, because we adopted you when you were 10. He's like, well, you could have waited so I could get in there because I was 16. Yeah. So he was in a relationship with me.
Yeah.
And I was in position. I'm going to go back to what Dr. Japes said. I'm in position to help him navigate the difficult things that are going to be in his life. And if I could say one thing about all of this is if we don't figure out how to put these youth in position where people can help them navigate, my 18-year-old would fall off the back of the truck if he didn't have people in his life to love him and care for him and guide him along the way. I needed that. We should expect they will need that. And that has to transcend program. It has to get into relationship.
Amen. Amen. I'm out of time. If you have a thought, let us know, and just appreciate you coming. Mr. Chairman, yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Bean. Appreciate that. Now recognize Ms. Moore of Wisconsin.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Ranking Member. It's so good to be back here in community with my colleagues for the first time since September, I think. And I agree, this is an all-star panel, and I just can't wait to consume my 5 minutes in engaging with you. I have listened very carefully to your testimony and read your testimonies here. And so if I don't get to you, it's not because I'm not interested, it's because I only have 5 minutes. But I want to start maybe with Mr. Lewis. You talked about, being able to stick your zip code in and coming up with all the resources in your community. I've sort of done that looking for contractors and so on and so forth. What are you relying, just very quickly, these resources, are most of them going to be private resources, like you talked about your churches and other things people can Google and they'll find private resources versus governmental resources?
Yes. So in short, our network is built up of businesses and faith communities and individuals who, out of their own pockets, are providing resources and time for these youth and families who are in crisis.
Well, thank you, Mr. Lewis. And I think that that's extremely important and helpful when we consider the things that Ms. Chu was talking about, Dr. Chu was talking about, because the Chafee program has been flat funded since 1999. Went from $140 million to $143 million. It would be $270 million modestly if it had kept pace with anything. And so when they put stuff in the Google, they Google services, they're not going to find very much in the way of governmental support. That being said, I just want to ask Mr. Elisco with regard to your services. One of the things that we have noted is just since the beginning of this administration, we've seen 200,000 employees who were the entire division of state systems, which was staffed by expert civil service servants who focused on ensuring that states had effective technology management services to manage child welfare programs. An entire division was eliminated. About 20,000 employees either fired or doged out or took to retirement. Closed 5 of the 10 HHS regional offices. Is your services, is it supplanting these services? How do you negotiate your services without the governmental? Are you replacing it? What would you do?
Yeah, so I think you're referring to some of the cutting at ACF within the Department of Health and Human Services. They cut many of the regions that oversee state and county governments. A lot of the work that these
the technology systems that were eliminated too.
Right. So a lot of these technology upgrades that states are considering are looking at upgrades in a very monolithic way.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, what would you do? I mean, now that they're not, are you replacing?
Right.
You would be replacing the public.
Yeah, sorry. I'll
because I got like 1
minute. Okay, yes. So legacy systems don't need to be replaced. So what I would recommend and what we do is sit on top of these legacy systems and add value to those existing systems, which does not require so much IT support. all of these jobs that were cut may not need to be replaced because technology like AI can help automate a lot of the
Okay, so thank you. I got 59 seconds. So I need to talk to Mr. Leach here. And Dr. Jacobs, thank you for your verbiage regarding the sticky notes, because I think that's a very helpful way to discuss this. Mr. Leach, you have really made the point that the entire panel has made, that technology has to be in service of the vision, and that we need to transform the system rather than just tinkering around the system, around the edges of it. I have a bill, for example, one of the things the One Big Beautiful Bill did is that it cut out the ability for youth to receive SNAP, food stamps. That had been a provision and it was cut out in the One Big Beautiful. Developmental, you pointed out, developmental science tells us that you're really in adolescence until you're 26 or 27 years old. So requiring people to go to work, not giving them SNAP, how does this serve building those relationships as opposed to just enhancing the disruption as you try to negotiate your way to adulthood?
Well, that it certainly will do that. It's going to create additional burden for our young people. Administrative paperwork churn, they're going to come on and off way more than because of the new rules. And so it does not help them as
You
they
did not
are.
have an education at 18. You did not have advanced degree or technology. All of a sudden now you got to go to work with no skills because you haven't had the training. You can't get SNAP. You know, you can only work. And that's what I'm saying. Is this realistic for having a program where it focuses on kids aging out and becoming our future workforce?
It will become a barrier whether there's technology or not.
Whether there's technology or not.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you so much for your indulgence. I'm sorry I can't talk faster, but I'm working on it.
Thank you, Ms. Moore, for your valuable questions
And
here
thank
today.
all of you so much, Ms. Carr. I know that you're really proud of this young man, Dion, that you helped, but it wasn't technology that helped him, it was you.
Thank you. Now recognize Mr. Moran of Texas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I get to my questions, I actually want to address something that was just mentioned about having no skills and not being able to work. I'll tell kids that are now in college that had no skills when they were teenagers, and I sent them to work, and they learned skills at work, and they continue to learn skills at work. And I think one of them is not. One of them is college age is not. And he is doing great on his own, but guess what? He learned skills at work at the age of 15 and 16, 17 by going and working in a warehouse and figuring out how to show up on time and be prepared and work hard and take directions from his supervisor. Those are the kind of skills that we need to build in our youth, regardless of whether or not they're in traditional families or foster families or adoptive families. They learn those skills at work. So there's nothing wrong with work. Let me go back to where we started today. I know that the hearing is meant to highlight the need for review and reform of the John Chafee foster care program, but I know it's designed to help current and former foster youth enter into adult life by empowering them through programs that help develop meaningful life skills, obtain housing, gain employment, all that. But really, I think what we're trying to do is figure out how do we best create a scenario where these kids can find their identity, their purpose, their belonging, and find the unconditional love in life. Those are the four things that I talk to my kids about that I know that they are looking for in this life. And foster kids are no different. They're looking for identity, purpose, belonging, and unconditional love. Every child within our foster care system should have those things presented to them and a pathway to find those things in life, even through the Chafee system. I want to start with you, Dr. Jacobs. You said when you were asked what's the most important thing, you said we need to emphasize relational health above all else. That's goal number 6 of the Chafee program. And you've talked a little bit about that. How can AI and technology help build on our goal of increasing relational health?
Appreciate that question. It does seem a little counterintuitive initially, but the way that AI and technology can help us achieve the goal of improving relational health is because technology and AI do the things that take time right now away from humans being human. If technology can take that burden, it allows caseworkers, foster parents, biological parents, and kin to actually have the time to be that human network that the children need, that youth need, after they go and they try and they fail and they try again and they fail and they try something else that didn't make sense, but they want to do it anyways. And they need to have humans that have the capacity to still be there for them. That's where technology and AI takes off that burden that would otherwise prevent humans from being human.
Mr. Lisko, in your testimony, you noted that much of the data in child welfare is unstructured, spread across case notes, and difficult to analyze. A study by the American Academy of Pediatrics found that between fiscal years 2005 and 2019, more than 3.2 million foster youth up to the age of 16 had some form of disability. In 2021, nearly 40% of foster youth in Texas alone experienced more than 2 placement disruptions, affecting their ability to build relationships we were just talking about, and complete their education, information often buried in case notes. I'm concerned about foster youth with disabilities who may not be getting connected to programs that they need. How can Augantel's technology help caseworkers extract the information they need and piece together this unstructured data, such as identifying whether a child with a disability might need additional support?
It's a wonderful question. In child welfare, there are services that are provided both internal and external to child welfare. So developmental disabilities is provided by another area of government. This is a separate system. These systems do not talk to each other today. The way that coordination occurs between these systems, caseworker and the developmental disability program and the child welfare program, are calling each other, they're emailing each other, and they cannot coordinate the care together. So what Augantel does is consolidates, with the appropriate data sharing permissions in place, consolidates the data for multiple systems so both caseworkers can see the entire history of that child regardless of the system that they're interacting with, so that they can coordinate the care, provide a more efficient and a more effective level of service, because AI is bringing that together for them and not requiring fragmented calls and sticky notes, et cetera, between these two agencies.
Thank you for that. I've got lots more questions, but I want to end with this quickly and just say that I believe that each one of these kiddos has a great destiny ahead of them. And it is incumbent upon us to make sure that they are directed in a way that they know that they are loved and they are supported. And oftentimes that is outside of governmental institution. That happens in the family, the faith institutions, and the institutions of economy. We are not to supplant that, but certainly to supplement and to support that. Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Moran. Mr. Feenstra of Iowa, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman LaHood, and thank you, Ranking Member Davis. I want to extend my gratitude and all the witnesses and what you wrote and your testimonies. They're so important for our children, for our foster children, and how we can continue to grow and help them. Iowa and across the country, caseworkers do an incredible job, but too often the technologies that work with them is really outdated. I know in Iowa we have outdated systems. A lot of states still use green screen systems. I mean, this is 1980s stuff. This is incredibly appalling. So I want to just talk about this a little bit. And Dr. Jacobs, I want to just ask you, first of all, there's this balance out here, and my good friend Congressman Moran just noted it, but I want to extrapolate it a little further, that technology is so important, but also data in is good, but it can be data out, it can be bad also, all right? Garbage in, garbage out, however. So these caseworkers, they have to put in good data, and they've got to extrapolate the data that's coming out. Do you see concerns about this, especially the time it takes and the relationships? I mean, where's the balance here?
Thank you. That's a very insightful question. One of the things that we do think about a lot and put a lot of effort into is the training that goes with our tools. And by that, I don't mean training on how to actually use the software, how to draw a line, how to make a box. We do that training as well. But the training that we feel is crucially important is the training about exactly what you're talking about. What do you do with the information? It's not terribly hard to find a phone number. There are a million findmyhighschoolfriends.com sites that will help you find a phone number, find an email. What's important is what you do with that and what you say after you've hopefully dialed the phone and engage with that person who says, I don't really want to talk to you. But this is someone that you feel, because of your skills as a caseworker or your life experience, that could be really impactful. The users of our tools and software that we talk with regularly, we meet with them and they share and peer support, they frequently say, don't give up. It's so important that this child knows their people, that it's more than a placement. It's not about checking a box. It's about building this child's people. We had one case in which our users were told that this child had no family. And they said, just let us try. This was an 11-year-old who had been in residential care for 8 months without one single visitor. And they finally got permission to try with our software and our tools and the training that they'd had, because they knew it was so crucial. They found this young girl's grandparents living 3 states away, desperate to know what had happened to her. They had raised her for the first half of her life, and then her mother had come, taken her, moved away, and she'd gone into a black hole for all they knew. So exactly to your point, it's crucial that the people involved have the time to actually be people, to put themselves in the place of an 11-year-old who's been completely isolated for 8 months from anyone who knows or cares about her. I can't really process that myself, but that is the core of what will make technology useful.
I appreciate that, your comments and what you're saying there. And I think from the federal, state level, I mean, we all have to be working on that, and we have to be very cognizant of that. And we can talk all about technology all we want, but we have to make sure what we're doing with it. Mr. Lewis, thanks for your testimony. It was wonderful. In Iowa, the Department of Health and Human Services is working to shift from fax system that was developed in the 80s to a new system that can reduce inefficiencies, provide caseworkers with better technology tools to serve families. As more states continue to slowly transition from CCWIS guidelines, how can technology be used alongside federal programs like Chafee to serve foster youth living in rural communities?
So the needs in a rural community are different than in an urban core.
Yep.
And yet, some things are the same. You have caring people in rural communities. You have professionals in rural communities, and you have the opportunity to make connections there. I can't speak for broad across the whole thing, but what I can say is if you can leverage the resources that exist and the people in the community, the opportunity to make connections between neighbors is stronger sometimes than in an urban setting, because every time I've been to a rural place, the people there are for each other.
That's right.
Like they're for each other.
Care.
They care. And it's not hard for them to do that. I would leverage the heck out of neighbors caring for neighbors.
Thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Veenstra. Now recognize Mr. Evans of Pennsylvania.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have 3 quick questions, though you probably say nothing is quick here. But I'm trying to make it quick. Mr. Leach, I would like to start with you. How can we improve the system when half the regional offices are supposed to help states with these technologies have been closed?
Yes, so I think the role of ACF is going to have to shift dramatically to a more support function than a compliance function, and that may be good for everybody. Let's reduce some regulation, let's reduce that focus on that, and let's start thinking about innovation and utilizing the partners in the community, vendors and other folks to help move these things along. We can't continue to stay stuck with the current child welfare regulations. We gotta just jump all that and move. I do want to add that, like, we're stuck with outdated systems because sometimes it's a 50-50 state federal match. Let's remind ourselves Medicaid's a 90-10. That's an easy fix, right? Homelessness, FYI vouchers, right? Can't use them if you're an extension of foster care. You got to choose one or the other. Why is HUD and ACF going against each other on that? Ridiculous, right? And then, Chafee, we can easily reduce regulations and reduce burden, administrative burden. Those are simple things we could do. We all just have to sit together with lived experience, bring it back down here, and we can really change this and shift all of this. Again, making sure that we continue to figure out that connection aspect of it. But we have a lot of work to do, but we have the right people.
Ms. Carr, the big ugly bill made massive cuts in Medicare, which is the #1 source of health insurance for foster youth.
You're correct. However, our youth, we haven't specifically in the state of Illinois experienced any cuts with our youth in care as of yet. So I can't really speak on that, as nothing has happened to our youth right now. But we are monitoring closely to see how that will look for us in our youth in care in the future.
Mr. Lewis, there's only so much one can do to help the most vulnerable when the president is the only one concerned about protecting himself and big billionaire buddies. That's the question.
I have seen in my own life, and I believe to my core, that the solutions for the community are mostly in the community. And I would love the opportunity for technology to be leveraged to help more communities care for themselves whenever possible.
Dr. Jacobs, can you give your response to that?
I've seen in my life, in my service in the military and in my service following that, in service to this country, that the solutions that we need as Americans are generally found among us Americans. And if we wait for someone else with more money and more power to solve our problems for us, we'll be waiting for a long time. We need to do this ourselves. We need individuals, communities, localities to dig in and work together, as Americans always have.
We work with states, both red states and blue states. From the feedback and questions from this committee, child welfare seems to be a bipartisan issue that is supported wholeheartedly by both sides of the aisle. I've seen various administrations and how it's impacted our ability to work with states, and I haven't seen much of a difference. So I look forward to working with this committee on both sides of the aisle to bring child welfare, regardless of what party is in control. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Gomez, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. How do I put this? My Republican, I want to kind of spell out what's going to occur over the next year and a half. Ever since the Republicans on this committee in the Senate and President Trump passed their one big, beautiful bill. Is their one big, beautiful bill cut the programs that working families rely on? Medicaid, SNAP, any kind of program you can think of, they try to gut it in order to give tax breaks to the largest corporations and the wealthiest individuals. They were so embarrassed by it, they tried to have a meeting at the White House to rebrand it. There's a fact. If you're rebranding, you're losing. And then they had a government shutdown for 40-something days, 50 days, in order to, one, not extend the ACA subsidies that would help working people. At the same time, refusing to swear in Alita Grijalva so she wanted to sign a discharge petition so she can release the Epstein files. So the Republicans will spend the next year and a half trying to hold hearings like on foster care, on Medicare, on Social Security, to act like they give a damn about working people. If they actually cared about working people, they never would have passed that monstrosity of a bill that also blew up the deficit. All the fiscal hawks on their side of the aisle were just talking BS since during their time in office when they passed a bill that they knew would blow up the deficit and the national debt. So this hearing, I think is important to have, but let's just call out what they did and what they're trying to do. They're trying to show and try to cover up what they did 4 months ago. And when it comes to foster youth, which is even more, I think, atrocious, because they cut food assistance for the same kids that are on this program. These kids who are also, when they age out of the system, they're going to experience homelessness rates at higher rates than non-foster kids. 18 months after they're out of foster care, 40 to 50% of them will end up homeless. 3 to 4 times more likely to commit suicide. Like, the numbers are terrible, and we can all do a better job. But at the same time, they're making it harder and harder and harder for these kids to get on their feet. And that's why it frustrates me that they want to come and talk about technology and AI and how it's going to help without focusing on what these kids need from the very start. They need a stable home where they're not abused, right? Where they're given every chance to succeed. When they age out of foster care, they have a place to live. One of my community funding projects was to get money to help an organization that provides housing to kids that are being aged out of foster care and have nowhere to go. That will help. Making sure that they get money so that they can have some spending money, either through food assistance or direct financial assistance, and then also opportunities to go to job training and educational programs like Job Corps Community College. I went to community college. It was an opportunity that changed my life. But when we kind of ignore the fact that they're decimating the safety net these kids rely on, and then erecting barriers to make it more difficult, I think that they're just, I don't want to say pretending, but definitely misleading the American public that they care. So if they really care, they should work with us to undo some of the most atrocious parts of the One Big Beautiful Bill, including the cuts to SNAP, which amount to $200 billion, including the damage that they did to Medicaid. And I was also on Medicaid. So I know what a lot of families go through. But when it comes to foster youth, if we're going to have a hearing, we should really focus on how these cuts hurt them. And here's the thing. If Democrats win back the House, we will have those hearings on Medicaid cuts, on SNAP cuts, and what they do to these children so that we can find real solutions that actually help them, not hurt them. With that, I yield back.
Our last member today to ask questions is Mr. Mike Kelly of Pennsylvania. And Mr. Kelly, thank you for being here. You're not on the subcommittee, but he wanted to waive on the subcommittee because he cares deeply about this subject area. And so welcome, Mr. Kelly, to our subcommittee.
Thank you, Chairman. And thank you all for being here today. You're taking a day out of your life to come and talk to us about what you do. You really don't need to hear what other people think of what's going on right now. I wanted to talk to you why you're here today and what you're doing. The one thing I think that we haven't touched on yet, and all of you have incredible experience in what you're doing. Mr. Lewis, I was reading your bio, and I thought this was kind of interesting. It said Adrian Lewis is the founder of Care Portal, the first care sharing platform designed to connect agencies, churches, businesses, and communities in real time. He began his career in business development, working across healthcare, technology, and education before a mission trip to Haiti with his wife, Cynthia. It transformed his perspective and deepened his faith. Over the next 3 years, he volunteered with the Global Orphan Project, where he witnessed firsthand the power of connection in caring for vulnerable children. Mr. Lewis, and for all of you, It's this deep, abiding belief that we have, that there is a God, that there is somebody that we look to. And usually for some people, it happens from the day they were born and because their family's raised them that way. For other people, it's when they reach a point where they have no hope and they turn to God. You are deeply rooted in your faith. You wouldn't have walked away from the career you had into this career if it hadn't been for a trip that you took to Haiti with Cynthia, and you came home from that. And what you did with your life since then is incredible because you walked away from something that you were really comfortable with and you were really successful, but you saw a need for something else. And when I talk to people like you, and all of you are in the same boat, what keeps your fire burning? It can't be funding from the government. There's not enough money to fund what everybody's asking for. My phone never stops ringing and say, you need to do this, you need to support this, you need to support this, you need to support that. I said, I'm fine with that as long as you realize every single thing you just asked for is supplied by taxpayers. So let's keep in mind what it is that we're looking at. But I thought your abiding faith is the one thing I think is the hallmark of America. We are a week away from Thanksgiving, when everybody wants to go home, everybody wants to spend time with their families. What happened to you and Cynthia that you were in Haiti and you came back home and said, you know what, we've truly been blessed. Now it's our turn to do something. And the rest of you, I think you're all in the same boat. You've given incredible testimony. Yours is the one that lit me up. And I got to tell you, I have a really deep personal experience with this, which I won't go into. But what you've done is incredible. So could you share that with us? I mean, it's almost
Sure.
like I'm at Mass again, and you're going to give a sermon. I would really like to hear from that because if there's one thing this country is missing today, is the fact it's not about government. The government doesn't do anything for you. It is our faith that saves us. That has always been the hallmark of America. If you can just share with us, because I know everybody's got all these different ideas for why they do it, and it comes down to we need more funding, we need more funding. I don't disagree with that. The return on that investment is incredible. Please share with us what happened in Haiti that you saw, that you and Cynthia came home and said, you know what, honey, there's a different calling for us, and we're going to go down that path.
I appreciate it, sir. I love to tell, you can ask my team, I love to tell the work that God has done in this very broken human being to transform me from somebody who is pursuing what was best for me, for climbing the ladder, for doing the things that seemed to matter for my identity. And while I was in Haiti on that trip, on that field, surrounded by those mountains and those beautiful people in circumstances beyond the horror that we can imagine, I had a very special moment holding my wife's hand on that field where a purpose bigger than ourselves was impressed on our hearts. And I believe the Lord of the universe is the one who impressed that purpose on our hearts. We are not here to serve ourselves. We are here to serve our neighbor. And serving my neighbor, particularly the most vulnerable, the children at the end of the line, who if no one steps up for them, they lose the worst. That has become the passion that has driven my family to both foster, adopt, leave my business, join this organization, and to try to inspire whoever will listen that if you will see and serve your most vulnerable neighbors, not only will their lives change, but yours will too.
That's an incredible story. And you've touched so many lives. I'll look at the numbers that you've touched. And some of these folks would have felt, listen, nobody cares about me. They don't, nothing in my future for me. And then we expect these people to somehow right their own ship and get back on the field and play it and really and succeed. Without faith, we are absolutely nothing. I can't tell you, reading all this for each one of you and what you've done with your lives is incredible. You're walking away from things. You could probably do a lot of things different. You're very talented. You could do something, but you have this dedication. And that's what I think more than anything else, as we go towards the next week, if we want to give Thanksgiving, don't give Thanksgivings for the things that you have. Give Thanksgiving for the things that we've been given. And I got to tell you, sir, I was so impressed. I'd love to meet your wife someday. And I'd like to say, what the heck happened to you guys in Haiti? And all of a sudden, he gets with you, and you guys come home, and you go in an altogether different direction. And the numbers that you have touched in that time, phenomenal, phenomenal. Thank you for what you're doing. God bless you. God bless you all for what you're doing. And listen, there's nothing more valuable to us than our youth. I mean, I was 1 of 5. My wife was 1 of 9. I don't know that you can do that today. Not because you're not physically capable, but there's a financial requirement there. This has been a great hearing. Thank you. Because once we get by the politics and we talk about people, which is really what it should be about, it's people like you, all of you. In your hearts, something changed. And at the end of the day, the answer is always your faith, what you have faith in. And for next week, I would just say, it's Thanksgiving. Let's just thank our Lord and Savior for putting this country in a position where we can help more people and do more good in the world than any country in history has ever done. Thank you all for being here.
Mr. Kelly, thank you. What a great way to end our hearing today. I think I speak for all of the members of the subcommittee here today. This is one of the best panels I think we've had in a long time. And it was because of your knowledge and your insight and your professional judgments that you shared with us today. But getting back to the core of what we need to do as policymakers and with the jurisdiction of the subcommittee is figuring out how innovation and technology and modernization can help our foster care youth. And we gained a lot of insight today and a lot of knowledge from all of you. So we're grateful. This will help us as we go back and look at legislation, look at changing our statutes to help improve foster youth, which is our ultimate goal here, to make our system stronger and more robust and change people's lives. And so want to thank all of you for being here today and look forward to continuing to work with you as we develop these policies. Please be advised that members have 2 weeks to submit written questions to be answered later in writing. Those questions and your answers will be made part of the formal record. With that, the committee stands adjourned. Thank you.